Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. I'm Rob Vanoff, and today I want to look a little bit more closely at what they're calling the Ishmael Papyrus, which dates to, they say, 2,700 years ago. So this is in the era of Solomon's temple. They say, I think, 7th century BC, possibly, which is wonderful if it indeed is not a forgery. And the scholars looking at this do not believe it's a forgery. There's a little bit of difficulty with what we call the chain of custody, and that it seemed to have been smuggled out of the land of Israel sometime maybe 50 years ago or so in the 60s, maybe taken from a cave in the Judean desert. We're not sure. I'll have links below to various articles that you can follow up on some of the details. What I just want to zero in on today is just to look at the images that I found online. These are just images in the articles that I've provided the links for. We'll show you why they call it the Ishmael text. You can see it's in a cursive Hebrew, what we call a Paleo-Hebrew. It's on papyrus, so it's not on leather. This is what we would refer to as kind of an Egyptian writing technology with the papyrus. But you can see the two angles here. One is kind of fuzzy up here at the top line, but focused in the middle. And then we have like a straight-on shot here. And of course, what you're seeing on your screen is much, much bigger than the actual. It's just a few fingers wide. But I'll zoom in here and you'll see why scholars are referring to this as the Ishmael text. And it's this word right here that I'm underlining. And it's to Ishmael or for Ishmael. So this first, and I'm going to trace the strokes so you can appreciate the scribe hand. I think it's a wonderful hand. Obviously, it's smudgy, it's small, but I think this, once the specialists in ancient Hebrew epigraphy have a chance to really zero in on this using the powerful microscopes and all this kind of analytical tool that they can bring to it to make sure they're getting the right transcription, I think we're going to have a wonderful contribution to our understanding of ancient Jewish scribes. It looks, if you just look here, you'll see a few things like here, and I think there might be one here. It seems to be employing the dots. I think there might actually be one here also as word dividers, and here. Now again, this is my guess. I am doing my best to give an analysis based on just this one image. So my observations could certainly be trumped by a specialist, but I can show you the Ishmael here again. So we have a word divider and presumably another word divider here, and then we have lamed. And you can see it begins and ends with a lamed. Then we have a yod. Then we have a sheen. Then we have a mem, an ayin, and then what is some kind of aleph, something that looks kind of like this. Often an aleph back in this day kind of looked like that, kind of like an F. And I think this little squiggly bottom here that you see is part of that aleph. How this would look in our modern script would be lamed, like that. That's this letter. Yod, sheen, mem, ayin, aleph, and then a lamed. So that's, maybe I'll go back to my green here. So that's the lamed corresponding there. Here's our yod, sheen, mem, ayin, aleph, lamed. L'Ishmael, for Ishmael. And I just think it's lovely. And I hope that they are able to demonstrate just very, very, very confidently that this is not a forgery. So I'm hoping it's not a forgery. And I'm hoping also that the scholars, through the high-res imaging and special kind of photography, will be able to actually capture all the places there are ink and subtract that from the places where there's a smudge or from dirt or something. And that will help improve the legibility. So aside from Ishmael, there are some other, and the dots that I point out, there are some other words that I think we can see. You see the lamids. I mean, if you just go and you think, okay, I'll just mark off the lamids. There's a lamid here, and a lamid there. Obviously, it's broken off. Oops, let me shrink that down a little for you. Lamid here, lamid here, lamid here, and possibly a lamid here. I'm not sure what that is. So in this situation, we can see that letter, and that can be helpful. It gives us an orientation to what we're looking at. Additionally, we can pick a letter like a mem, and I think there's probably a mem here, and maybe that's about it. So another letter is an ayin, which is like, normally an ayin would be more of a closed, like a little seed, but it seems that here they wrote it as kind of, I'm going to zoom in on that so you can see, kind of like just a little loop, kind of like that. And they didn't always close the circle. But if this is an ayin, I think that it's possible that this is an ayin too, an ayin lamid after a dot, which would be the word al, upon, possibly. That's a possibility. And I think we have the same thing here. I think this is an ayin and a lamid. And this is likely a vav. So we see some things here. Another letter I think we see is a tav. Now again, I'm not attempting a full transcription of this or translation, but I think this is a tav, and I think this is a tav here. So a tav being, the ancient tav was just like an X, like that. And what's neat about the tavs here is that you can see the thickness. Now again, I'm zoomed way in, but you can see the thickness of the nib, because I'm presuming that's one stroke this way, and then the narrowness of the nib that way. And you can see it here as well. You see the thickness of the nib. I doubt that the scribe did 2 strokes parallel. I don't think that would be efficient. I think that the script is a swift and skilled script. That's how I would say the scribe is a swift and skilled scribe. And this might be a little bit, he might be writing kind of quickly. And some of the evidence I would suggest for that is the mem. If this is indeed a mem, normally a mem has that many squiggles upon the top. But what you see here, it's kind of smudges together. So, and you can see from the angle from the top of the lamid, you see the angle like that, and then it goes down. So that's a wide nib that's put at a kind of angle like that for pretty much everything. And that angle kind of, if you just look at the general, the general bias, or the general shape is along this angle. Do you see what I mean when I do that? It's really lovely, in my opinion. And now this is not a biblical text. We should know that. I don't think there's anything there. I didn't see anybody making that argument. Another letter I'm curious about is if this is a mem here. Oops, that was kind of an ugly mem. what is this letter? Is this letter a dalet or a bet? I don't know. And is this indeed an ayin and a tav? If so, that would be like ayin, tav, like this, and maybe with another word marker. But again, I don't know what these are. These are my guesses. This might be a samic, which usually had a kind of look like that, but this could be a biform of the samic. Anyway, so you get a sense of what's going on here. I'm going to eagerly await the official, scholars, the specialists that are focused on transcribing this, and then they're going to give their publication, their justification for what is this text, what does it say, and we can revisit it at that time. But even though this is not a text of the Bible, it is definitely Judean Hebrew script, ancient Judean Hebrew script. This is the script of the time of Isaiah, the time of Hosea, the time of Jeremiah, from the later First Temple, or from the later what we call Solomon's Temple era. We have a text here that's on papyrus, and we have from all the little boule that we have, the little artifacts that are found by archaeologists that have the seals, those wax seals, and the little rings that impress those are part of that papyrus culture, where you have rolls of papyrus that are bound and stamped with a wax seal to hold them. And so it speaks to the scribal world. What are the materials involved in creating these documents, and what level of scribal skill permeated Judean society. I think this is just wonderful. And I think it would be absolutely wonderful if there, and I'm sure there have been in ancient Israel, biblical texts that were written maybe in fragmentary form, or like not necessarily the whole book of the Bible or necessarily the whole Torah, but on such papyrus, but sadly are just lost to history, because while those the little boule, the little stamp seals survive because they're made of stone, here the papyrus doesn't. It doesn't stand the test of time. It dissolves and cracks and falls away. So here we go. My little 2 cents. Thought I'd share at least why they're calling it the Ishmael manuscript, or the Ishmael Papyrus. And now you have a little bit maybe more understanding of why that's so. Shalom.